Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a podcast by Practical E-Commerce.
What is going on, Internet? Eric Banholtz here, back again with another E-Commerce Conversations. As always, I've got amazing guests on the other end of the line. Jeff Sheldon, he is the founder of Ugmonk. You know, I've got a ton of questions for him. A little bit about Ugmonk. I am personally one of their customers. They've got some amazing T-shirts and everyday objects. And we also share a shared experience of being on a ShipStation commercial. Jeff, did I do you justice?
Yeah, Eric, I think you covered most of the ground there.
You're up in Pennsylvania now, and I'm excited about this show because you're going in a direction that is completely different than directions that we've gone at Beard Brand, which is opening up your own fulfillment center. And I've been watching you post the photographs. I see the building. It looks super dope. I've kind of always wanted to do that, but you've always fulfilled your own products, right?
Yeah, pretty much, except for one of our Kickstarters. We've done everything in-house for the past 12 years, from my original apartment to my parents' basement, which has then later become the Ugmonk warehouse. And now we're actually, moving into a real warehouse outside of a home, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so I guess let's give our listeners a little bit more background on your journey. Like you said, you started 12 years ago. Is this entirely bootstrapped? You got funding? You got partners, employees, all that stuff?
Yeah, so I started Ugmonk 12 years ago, right out of college, as a little side project to keep my designer brain and hands busy. It was not me starting a business. In fact, I didn't actually think of myself as an entrepreneur, and that's come later, and that's come more by necessity because of what I do. And after making the things, I need to figure out a way to sell them to people. So the side project that was designing a few t-shirts and trying to sell them to people slowly turned into more than just a few people and more than just a few t-shirts, and has grown into what I'm doing today. But I started by borrowing, I think it was like $2,000 or $1,800 from my dad to buy my first 200 shirts and see if I could sell them. And thankfully, he took the risk on me and I was able to pay him back pretty quickly. But this was way before social media and before really the e-commerce world we live in today. And I wasn't sure if anyone would ever buy what I made. But slowly and surely they came one by one, and I put all the money back into inventory and have just bootstrapped it ever since then.
Yeah, if I'm thinking back 12 years ago, that's 2008.
Yeah.
And that was Threadless at the time, kind of the leader for graphic tees.
Yep. Yeah. So I was entering contests like Threadless, Designed by Humans, which was another kind of Threadless clone. And that's where I started to see success. And that's what really got me into designing t-shirts. I knew I wanted to design things. I've always been doing art as a kid and making things and creating things. But winning one of those contests was one of the first times where I saw what I made got turned into a physical product that other people could buy, and got really addicted to that whole cycle of seeing other people buy my creations.
Now, those companies, do they pay you commission on that, or is it like a one-time designer fee?
Yeah, so they've changed the structure over the years. I don't know what it is now, if they're still doing it, but it was a one-time fee, and I think it was $400, maybe $500 when I won. And as a college student, when I won 2007, I think is when I first won, I was like stoked, $500 for designing a t-shirt. It seemed like I had made it. But then I didn't realize, or I quickly realized, that the economics of them selling thousands and thousands of that one shirt and me sitting there with that $500 and not getting anything else didn't really make a whole lot of sense long term as a sustainable way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that website back in the day. It was pretty innovative, what they were doing at the time. So when you launched with that $1,800 order, and this is 12 years ago, again, like Shopify didn't exist back then, did it? How were you selling the products?
If it did, it was a very rudimentary version of it. So I used a site called Big Cartel, and I think they're still around. Another really simple e-commerce platform. And then I had my brother, who's a software developer, partner up with me, and he coded it out and customized it and built out our first ever website on Big Cartel.
And then how are you driving people to the website? I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like I'm talking to an OG e-commerce guy.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, it's weird. I'm like, how did anybody even find me? Because there was no way to get the word out, but it was through forums and design blogs, like t-shirt forums. And then a lot of the people that had seen me on these contest sites, I was able to somehow get their email or their contact information and be like, hey, I'm doing my own thing. Or I'd leave a comment in the section there on my profile, started my own brand or my own thing over here. And people would be able to find me. But it was more about blogs coverage, and there was t-shirt blogs, there's design blogs, typography blogs that would mention me, and it was a totally different place on the internet.
Yeah, that was fun times, man. I kind of miss those. Yeah. Those less, they're a little more distributed, like not everything was on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. There's a lot of independent communities. So you were a t-shirt company. For how long were you guys a t-shirt company? Yeah, I know you're still one, but I mean like as a primary.
For the first couple years, I don't think I did much else other than t-shirts. We then moved into screen printed posters with the same designs, and then moved into leather goods, and then into more hard goods and workspace products, all the way up until 2017, which is when I launched the Kickstarter for Gather, which is a modular desk organizer. And that went bonkers on Kickstarter and set us into like this fast-paced growth and troubleshooting and scaling that I learned a lot. It was a very successful product and is a very successful product, but it actually helped me realize and clarify some of the things that I want, leading to me where I am today, getting this physical space, physical warehouse here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So is it just you then, or?
So it's me, and then my brother is a business partner, and he's more of the technical lead. And then I have my mom, who is my head shipping employee. And I have my sister-in-law who handles all of our operations and really 50 other things that I delegate day to day to make the business run. And other than that, it's just part-time people come in during the busy seasons to help us ship products.
Yeah. Now, I assume it's your brother's wife. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a little bit loose. It's my wife's brother's wife. So it's like, I don't know what you call that.
Yeah, his sister-in-law will work. I was just wondering if you had to deal with any kind of that family dynamic. I mean, obviously you do, but not like... Mm-hmm. A very intimate family drama.
Yeah, and my wife helped a lot in the beginning too, and it's like that dynamic works for us because our family generally gets along. I wouldn't say there's no stress. There's definitely added stress from certain areas, and I don't recommend it to everyone to say, go start a family business. If you know you hate your brother and you can't stand being around him, like starting a business with him is probably not a great idea. But I think for us, it's kind of the opposite. There's some synergy or some, I hate that word, but you know what I mean? There's like some chemistry that works with the complementary skill sets to work together, and we've been doing it. It's actually brought us closer together as a family.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned what your mom does, because my mom has bugged me since we started Beard Brand to work for Beard Brand. And in the early days, I told her she could do the shipping for us, but she didn't want to do it at the time. And then as we grew and got more successful, she kind of reneged on that. But by then, we had already moved to a 3PL. So talk about what it's like, why you've decided to do fulfillment in-house when there's so many other 3PLs out there.
Yeah, I think it's a multifaceted answer. And again, this won't apply to everyone that's listening, like, oh, I'm going to do what Jeff's doing, or I'm going to do what Eric's doing, because everyone's business is so nuanced and the products are different, the goals are different. And for us, keeping it in-house allowed this really high touch on all of the quality control and products that really need a lot of quality control. And as we've gotten from just a screen printed t-shirt, which seems like something that should be very easy to replicate, there's variances, there's different issues, and to troubleshoot that through a 3PL makes it really hard. Then moving into natural materials like leather and wood, and the attention to detail that we have in all of the design of our products, it becomes really hard to control that if we're never seeing what's happening. Now, in an ideal world, those things are manufactured 100% perfect. They go to the 3PL. We never touch them. It goes out. And I kind of moved that direction when we launched Gather in 2017, working with a 3PL, having multiple shipping containers of product. There's no way that my parents were going to let 2 shipping containers show up at their front door. We had a very bad experience with a 3PL. I know they're not all created equal, and other people might say, oh, like I didn't realize, we've always been fine that way. We just ran into every problem imaginable, from communication to wrong orders, picking problems, delays, shipping rates being off and them overcharging us, things like that it like completely soured the whole experience for us. And we would never run into any of those problems the previous, 9 years. And it got us thinking about what we actually wanted to do in the future, how we wanted to manufacture, and really broader than that, the business goals. Like, what do we want Ugmonk to become? How big of a business? What parts do I enjoy about it? And that came 3 years later than that. We've come full circle and realized, you know what? I think we actually want a physical space here to become more of this boutique, limited lifestyle brand, really design studio is more what I'm thinking of calling Ugmonk recently, where we can have control and work directly with the manufacturers and QC everything all the way to the time it comes in, we receive it, to the time it gets shipped out to the customers, just to kind of close up all of those gaps and all of the areas that fell apart when we were working with a 3PL.
I didn't run across you guys until probably like 6 months ago. And I knew you sell shirts, but I actually thought of you guys as more of an object-based company. Like that's kind of where you started. So it's really interesting to kind of see how you guys are presented on your website, products that you have and how they work together. Do you ever have concerns that, maybe the items that you're selling are not very cohesive, or you kind of go on this, product tangents that don't really work together for your audience? Or do you just design things that you love?
Yeah, that last thing that you said is the thread that ties it all together. No pun intended, meaning thread and t-shirt. But the idea is that they're all products that I believe in, that I personally want to exist and want to use. And there is some maybe confusion, or it can be a little bit odd to be like, wait, I thought you guys were a t-shirt company. Now you sell desk organizers, and like, how does that connected? But what ties it all together is me as a designer and my taste and my curation of what I like. And a lot of people have latched on or have come to know that and trust that and have followed me from t-shirts to leather goods to desk organizers. So I think from a brand perspective, it's hard to describe what Ugmonk is in a simple sentence. And that's why I think really where we're moving is more of a design studio, where each idea that we spend a lot of time on and launch is an idea that's been worked on, and really the emphasis on design. And I don't know exactly where we'll be in the next 3, 5, 10 years. Like, will we sell t-shirts forever, or will we move all into workspace and object design? But that's really the fun part for me, is being able to pivot and kind of beat to our own drum as far as what we do.
Yeah. And you guys also carry other brands' products. You're a retailer too. Talk about that.
Yeah, that was new. So last year we launched what I coined Ugmonk, the new Ugmonk, or Ugmonk 3.0 is what we called it, and bringing in objects that I've already been talking about and I already use, but they're not things that I've designed at all, but just curating those, bringing them in, and offering them to our fans and telling the story about why I like them.
Yeah. It's also funny you sell Hasami coffee mugs, which I personally have purchased as well before I even ran across you guys. So we very much share a similar taste in aesthetics and design. How are you building out your fulfillment center? Are you going full automated, or is it just putting stuff on shelves? Do you have any kind of vision for that, or is that handled by other people on your team?
Yes to all of the above. So I will be part of that discussion, but I'm also relying on my sister-in-law, Claudie, to do a lot of the operational setup, and she's going to be managing employees and how that whole process works. And we're actually right now looking at warehouse management systems to take us to the next level. We still use ShipStation to print labels, and there's some inventory management, but we want to get to a point where things are more systematized and more SOPs, so that we're not doing it by feel or doing it by memory, because we know where products are. And we have so many SKUs right now that we need a better system in place just to control all of that inventory.
I think there's a lot of opportunity when I look at 3PLs. You would think it's as simple as, just grab an item, put it in the box and send it on its way. But there's a lot that can happen. I can never pronounce his last name, Jay Sauceda, here in Austin. He's another Twitter user. He's got a 3PL as well. He talks about all of Ugmonk's business needs, and then all of Beard Brand's business needs. They're completely different. And now you're one company that's trying to adapt and adjust for both Ugmonk and Beard Brand. And I think that's where a lot of challenges can come in with working for a 3PL. We've had our issues, certainly, like all people working with a 3PL, just the communication, the expectations. And I do agree with you that I think if you do it in-house, you're going to have a lot more efficiencies. You'll probably be able to send out a lot more orders quicker than working with a third-party firm.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, the scalability is something that doesn't work in-house, right? So if I have 100 orders a day and then we all of a sudden move to 1,000 orders a day, there's no physical way of doing that other than just trying to bring in more people, but you run out of space. And there may be ceilings that we hit where we just can't keep up with demand. But the pace of how we've grown our business and what I want to do with the business is not to really infinitely scale it. And those efficiencies can be made up by systems and processes, and then just saying like, hey, this is the pace we're going to move. We're not going to be able to launch as many things. And we don't spend, like we're not really doing anything on the paid acquisition front. So we're not trying to acquire customers really fast, which seems backwards. And a lot of people listening to be like, what do you mean? You just do like email marketing and social, organic social. But I enjoy that pace, and I enjoy how that attracts really quality customers, and the people that we're bringing in through the door that are introduced, whether it's word of mouth or just seeing an Instagram post, they stick with us for life. Their repeat purchase rate is so high. And I like this idea of kind of building an old world business in the digital age, like a mom and pop, the local bakery or the cobbler or whatever it was, where people trust and they go back to over and over and over, but doing that in a modern way where you don't have to be local to buy from us, but we have a core following of people.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting about that is, of course, it's got to be good for your bottom line, right? Mm-hmm. You're also kind of, like your brand is built around your vision, your designs, which no one can copy you. And I wonder, is that a story that you're telling pretty actively on email or in social media, or is it like, what's a typical experience for a customer of yours to run across the brand and get to know your core beliefs and core values and vision?
Honestly, it's something we should do better. We have plans to do that and to put more emphasis on telling that story. For a while, I think my story was told on different e-commerce blogs and design blogs of designer turned entrepreneur or side project to full-time thing. That's no longer really that interesting because so many people have done this, taken a hobby and turned it into a business. So what we want to do is tell more of the whole story about what makes us unique and how we're doing things, what I call the long, hard way, making things in small batches, using natural materials that are not easy to work with, but the craftsman approach and the detailed approach, and get that out better on social and on through video form and through written form. And has been one of those things that's like keeps getting put on the back burner because there's so many things to do. But we do have some automated emails in the flow to introduce people to the brand. When they buy, they're starting to get emails about who I am and our vision and some of the principles of what guides Ugmonk.
Yeah. Now let's talk about analog, man. You've got a new product that you're in the process of launching. Is the Kickstarter still going on, or?
The Kickstarter is officially over, but that means the really hard work gets started now for us of fulfilling the Kickstarter. So we're in the manufacturing stage right now.
Talk about like how you get the vision for this, or does it just come to you and then it's just a matter of like executing? And then I've never had like a successful launch like this. So far, you guys have sold about 5,500, and they're just beautiful. I mean, of course, you have your prototype. They're just beautiful objects. Walk me through, from vision to delivery.
Yeah, analog is really the culmination of like, I don't want to say my life's work because that sounds a little too, egotistical or broad, but it's the culmination of all the things that I love about running Ugmonk and design and productivity and form plus function. So analog is a simple, tangible productivity system that is based on these 3x5 cards, and it divides tasks into 3 categories: today, next, and someday, which might be familiar to anyone that's using like a getting things done GTD system. A lot of people are using this way of working through digital apps or also just on paper. But what I wanted to do was create more of a beautifully designed, self-contained system with these cards, the wood holder, a place to store the cards, and really a system of how I get work done. And what analog has done for me and why I started doing it was because every time I open my phone and I swipe up, I'm going to check my to-do list or I'm going to a calendar appointment, but I get distracted by those red badges or a notification coming in. And before I know it, I'm staring at my phone being like, what was I going to go look at? And same thing with a browser tab. I can open up our task manager and look at Asana and look at it. But then as soon as I switch away from it, like it could be an hour before I look at it again. And I'm not doing the things that I need to be doing. The analog card sits in front of me in this wood holder, stares at me all day in the face and says, Jeff, this is what you need to be doing. And these are the few things you need to do to move the ball forward. And what it's done, even before it was a product, just by using regular index cards, was cause these small advancements in focus and productivity to help me work on the right things. And I think while anybody could go grab a stack of index cards and do the same thing, and I would encourage them to do that, what analog is like it has a single purpose. So when it's on my desk and it's designed this way with the bullet points to fill out as I complete each task, it's this kind of like blinders on a horse where I'm looking at it and not having to get distracted through all of the digital distractions that we're bombarded with. And that's where the whole product came from. So it was a real need it really helps me. And that's why I wanted to launch it on Kickstarter.
Now talk about your whole, like, how do you run an effective Kickstarter? That's something that just blows my mind.
Yeah, the first thing you do is build an audience for 12 years. Really, the Kickstarter process, and I think I tweeted this recently, is a 45-day campaign takes about 6 months of work. Really, I've been working on Analog on and off for several years, like the past 12 months, as far as the lead up, the pre-launch, the product design, the sourcing, the manufacturer, getting the manufacturers lined up, the storytelling, the video, the product. A Kickstarter is so much more than what it looks like when you just kind of browse through projects. But building this whole process and really getting everything lined up as far as like having people test Analog and sending cards to people, getting testimonials, understanding the story I wanted to tell. And then, in the middle of COVID, not being able to shoot the video. So I decided to shoot the video myself. And spending like a month doing that, just learning all that I could about video and storytelling to launch day. And the most important thing about launch day is having a captive audience that you're ready to unleash on the product. And I think that's where a lot of people miss, is they think that when they press launch on Kickstarter, Kickstarter is going to send them 1 million visitors and then their product will, if it's good, will be successful. So building that pre-launch phase is really the most important part, because once you launch and that day one, you can send an audience of people that already trust you, you can build momentum that can carry you throughout the rest of the campaign.
So with a successful campaign, you're kind of like seeding the interest with your own audience. And then as Kickstarter sees that, they'll start to introduce the campaign to other.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. They'll see what's doing well, what they like, what fits within what a good Kickstarter project is to them. And then we get picked in the projects we love category. We got a feature on their homepage in the front of the design section. And then in one of their emails, there's certainly a halo effect and you're getting a lot of additional traffic and eyeballs on the project. But to anyone that's thought about launching it, it's not simply like, do I launch this on my own or launch this on Kickstarter? Well, Kickstarter will make it more successful. It's like Kickstarter is just the platform. And it's not necessarily going to change the product itself.
Yeah, as someone who's not very good at planning, it's an amazing thing when something is executed as well as yours. If you're listening here, you should check out his Kickstarter and just see the photography he has and the gifts he has, how the product is shown, the stories told, the different kind of options that consumers have. Do you still think Kickstarter, I mean, obviously you're in the middle of a successful Kickstarter, but do you think it's a platform that's still relevant in 2020, or has that changed over the years?
I didn't know, because like I said, the last one I had launched was 2017, but now I know, being on the other side of this 45-day campaign and raising $450,000 for Analog, it's like, okay, I'm definitely going back to this. I'm going to continue doing this. And I think, again, this fits my business model really well. It may not fit other business models well to do things this way, but this is a way to validate the product, to build the hype for it, to have that social proof of seeing like other people seeing those numbers climb, and then being able to have that money up front to manufacture at a large scale without having to take out loans or get other type of funding.
Yeah. So you guys will get a check from Kickstarter. Is that true? Is that
Yep.
how it works?
Yeah. They'll take their fee, and then they take their fee, the payment processing fee, and then they will send the rest to us. And then it's up to us to manufacture and fulfill those 5,000 plus backers.
And you'll still take orders on, what is this, CrowdOx? I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. So we're taking pre-orders, currently still taking pre-orders on CrowdOx, which is kind of it's a pledge management platform for Kickstarter and for other crowdfunding that allows us to give more opportunity to upsell customers, and they're adding on items, confirming their address. And we can also take pre-orders, and it's working really, really well. And the only downside for backers is like the people that are pledging now, their delivery date will be a couple months after the original backers get in, but it's keeping the momentum going for the product until we get it live on ugmonk.com.
Yeah. Do you see a pretty significant drop off in interest of products, or do you think the Kickstarter kind of maintains that interest?
Yeah, as far as Analog goes, I mean, the momentum has still continued pretty strong, but the hardest challenge for us, and I think what happened before with Gather is to keep the momentum going post Kickstarter, a year from now, is how do we continue bringing new customers through the door, introducing them to our story, to our products. And the thing I'm really excited about Analog is that it's refillable, and looking into the idea of subscriptions or giving people the option to have the cards show up exactly when they need them. We'll bring them back and be able to show them the rest of our collection of products. And then also that it's going to be a much lower price point than Gather and some of the other products that we sell. So it should be easier to to kind of get that first product in their hands.
Yeah. That's pretty exciting, man. You're going to become a productivity company if it's too successful, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love this direction we're moving because it really does hit on all the cylinders that I really am passionate about and enjoy. And applying design to this industry, there's a lot of things out there around productivity. There's a lot of workspace products. There's monitor stands, there's organizers. But I really love this idea of carving out that niche and going after it with my design taste and minimalistic sensibilities.
I want to talk about... we talked about it before air, but you and me, we share a similar experience in being, I guess, case studies for ShipStation. Talk about that, man. Tell that story again.
Yeah, it's funny. I said we're the ShipStation brothers because ShipStation shot a user testimonial video for me 5 or 6 years ago. It probably was by now, and wanted to use it on their site. And ShipStation, for those that don't know, is just a shipping application. It allows you to print all of your postage for all of your orders and do all of your order fulfillment. And when they shot that video, it was all on their dime. All I had to do was tell my story. But then a couple of years later, or several years later, they called me and said, "Hey, we want to use that as a TV commercial, like on broadcast television." I'm like, "Okay, sure." Like I gave them permission, and away it went. Little did I know it was going to be like this national TV campaign on, all the major networks and cable channels and ESPN and CNN, and all of these people started texting me, and friends and people I hadn't seen for years saying that I was, "You're on my TV." And then, I handed over the reins to you. It was funny because after they played that for a while, and then after they stopped playing that, I see, oh, there's Eric from Beard Brand. Like we didn't know each other, but I loosely knew you through the e-commerce circles. So it's a very odd way of getting exposure, but it's been pretty cool to see people discover Ugmonk just from that simple thing.
Yeah, it was kind of a similar experience as me. I'm less detail oriented, so I recorded this case study. I just thought it would go up on their website or whatever. And then all of a sudden, my mom tells me that my uncle or something saw me on TV, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Shark Tank rerun," because I was on Shark Tank years ago. Mm-hmm. And she's like, "No, it wasn't that. It was something else." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" Like, I don't think ShipStation told me they were going to run it as a commercial.
Really?
I think they just started. I think they just started running it. But of course, I don't want to say they didn't because I'm really bad at checking my emails and stuff like that. So they could have given me the heads up. I've only seen it on TV like once or twice because I rarely watch TV. But when it happened, I'm like, "Oh man, that's great!" And our operations guy, he was in the video too. And we're at like a company party when both of us were up there. I'm like, "Oh hey, that's you." So
yeah,
one of the joys in life.
What a roundabout weird way of getting exposure. And some people were hitting me up being like, "Dude, your sales must be through the roof." And I'm like, well, it doesn't work that way. It's not, this is our Oprah moment where people are just going and buying our product. But I have received several emails, or probably, I don't know, 20, 50 emails over the years since that had been a TV commercial from people saying, "Hey, I kept watching the commercial back because I was curious about what your name of your company was. And then I found you and now I've discovered your products and now I'm buying them for my kids," or whatever. Like just some random ways of people finding us that probably would never have found us on social media or other places.
Yeah. If that's a takeaway from anything, it's in life, just kind of like say yes to as much as possible. I know there's people who also say no to everything. I'm kind of on the yes camp. And then like, you just never know where it's going to lead to. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what may blow up. But the more you can do that, it's good for SEO to generate links back to your website. I never did it with the intent of being on a national commercial, as was the same as you. And you just kind of look at what happens. And I'm a big believer in just kind of like giving, and things just seem to come back to you.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I break down a lot of posts on how we do things and how I've designed things and design process from idea to finished product, and try to be as transparent as possible. And there's one camp that would say, "Why are you showing like all of this? You realize like people can steal this idea, they can knock you off," and they will, and they do. But I'd rather people see the entire process, because at the end of it, people want to buy the real thing. They're not looking for the knockoff. And being really transparent with the process of how I've built Ugmonk and how I design products and how I do as much as I can share has been an integral part of people sticking with me over the years.
You guys going to do any kind of like cool collaborations with other brands out there?
So we've experimented a little bit with collaborations, and we've done some smaller ones. I think what I'm realizing is that might be one of the things that I said yes too much to and need to focus in from the product standpoint. For me right now, the collaboration is looking more like me collaborating with another designer to make one of my ideas happen that I felt limited in versus just a straight up collaboration. But I think there's different seasons for each business. And, right now we're in the thick of Kickstarter season where we have a lot to manufacture and fulfill and work on. But in 12 months from now, who knows what will be our main focus will be.
Yeah. For all of our listeners, where can they learn more about you? Where can they follow you? How can they make you richer?
Yeah. So I'm Ugmonk, UGMONK.com. And I'm Ugmonk on Twitter. Instagram is where you can find me, those two places most. And or you can use our contact form and reach me by email.
And that's all you. That's not some agency or anything running your accounts.
Right. Yeah. I'm posting the tweets that are coming out and the photos that are going up. It's me manually posting them. Again, things that other people would say, why don't you automate that? Why don't you do this? And I've just chosen this way. It's not the right or wrong way, but it's what feels right to me and what I enjoy doing. If it feels like work to me, I think I would stop doing it, but I still get value out of being on those platforms and being accessible.
And I will echo, go ahead and buy something from their store. They've got great products. It's beautifully designed website. It's stunning photography. They should kind of a benchmark for how you build an e-commerce company, how you build products, how you communicate with your audience. So thank you so much, Jeff, for coming on the show. It was a pleasure chatting with you. Looking forward to maybe hopefully next one in the future sometime. As always, this has been an e-commerce Conversations. Thanks for listening. Cheers and keep on growing.